sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
People make the world go
Good morning, Sinkers and Nevis, and welcome to Inside the News. Welcome to Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. Today is Saturday, January 8th, 2022, and I'm your host for today's edition of Inside the News. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of Inside the News. It's going to be very exciting, and I hope to get participation from you, the callers, the listeners right here in St. Kitts and Nevis, for us to discuss an issue that made the headlines in the week. Of course, this is an issue that I think other countries can relate to, other people can relate to, but one that I think needs to be had. Welcome to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. Today is Saturday, the 8th of January, 2022. And I'm your host for today's edition, Devon Cornelius. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's edition. Let me just give out the numbers quickly for those of you who are interested in calling in later on when the phone lines are open. You can call us at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. Those are the numbers to call. Remember, we're live on Facebook and YouTube at WINNMedia SKN, and of course you can send us a WhatsApp via 662-2204. And the numbers for those people in the diaspora, we have the UK number, which is 033-344-0065. If you are in the USA, you can call us at 718-285-6984. And if you are in Canada, you can call us at 305-921-4619. Those are the numbers that you can call to participate in today's edition of Inside the News. So the decision has been made by the Ministry of Education, acting on the advice from the Federal Cabinet and the Ministry of Health, the COVID-19 Task Force. They have met and they have decided that schools will reopen, or rather some schools will reopen on Monday, January 10th, 2022, as planned. However, some changes have been made and they were announced by the minister. And for those who missed the changes, of course, we'll have that in today's headline news. But on Monday, the early childhood sector and students of fifth form, so the early childhood sector, that's the daycare, etc., and those students who are in fifth form, they will return to school on Monday. And so teachers and stakeholders and parents, please be aware, if you are related to the early childhood sector and students in fifth form, you are to report to school on Monday. With respect to the fifth form students, this too is because preparations have to continue because of the students. The students will be sitting their CXC exams this year, and so they have to go back to school to continue their preparations, in some cases begin preparations. Now, with respect to students from Form 1 through to Form 4, so if you are in Form 1, 2, 3, and 4, and if you are in primary school from kindergarten up until grade 6, you will return to school on the 24th. That's the 24th of this month, January 2022. And if you are of the Clarence Fitzroy Brand College, you will return to school on the 18th of this month. So you would see that there is a phased reopening of the schools, of course, because of the spike in cases, but there's a phased reopening of the schools, and the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education, they are working closely to ensure that the schools can reopen safely. Now, what the health officials have said, for those of you who may have missed the briefing yesterday and Friday, is that they can't shut down the schools, they can't stop schools if some of the students get infected and recover. And so they don't want to keep the children out of school for too long. Yes, there is the virtual option. There is the option of doing your classes online. But because of the nature of the school and because of, let me say, most of the students primary school and even high school, their attention span would be difficult to manage if classes are to be online. And of course, you also have the issue of who is going to monitor these students if they are to stay home, because some parents may not be able to trust their children to stay home by themselves and to do school and to make sure that they attend the classes. And so, as the health and the education officials, more so, have said, is that nothing beats face-to-face learning. We understand the situation we are in with the rising cases, but nothing beats face-to-face learning. Other countries across the Caribbean have taken that decision, and there is some mixed feedback on the way forward as it relates to school. We're going to turn now to a clip from Grenada, and we're going to hear more from what decision has been taken there with respect to schools on the island. Have a listen.
The Grenada Union of Teachers has confirmed that there are suspected outbreaks of COVID-19 in at least 2 schools in the country. In speaking to the media at a press conference on Friday, First Vice President of GUT Kenny James says during this week, when students of only exit grades attended face-to-face classes, statistics show the spread of the virus is happening rapidly. He said at least 1 school is dealing with an outbreak.
1 school, 119 students reported on Monday. By yesterday, they were down to 87. Talking students. Another school started with 45. Yesterday, they were down to 11. And mind you, because of the stigma that surrounds COVID, there are many others who are infected. And the parents, because they're trying to protect their children, and of course they want to go to work too, so they ain't saying that my child sick. Well, is the cold the child have and the child, so they keep the children at home.
James says the suspected cases were reported to the relevant authority, and he anticipates the results will be made known soon. Meanwhile, a survey conducted in 58 schools on island spoke of the difficulties that will be faced in getting students to adhere to the stipulated COVID-19 protocols.
Only 2% of the students strictly adhered to the protocols. Talking about wearing masks consistently and what? Only 2%. 27% needed occasional reminders. 33 needed frequent reminders. As you turn around, you have to tell them, put on your mask. Put some space. 38% needed to be consistently monitored and reminded that, hey, remember, this is not normal. So clearly, over 80% of our students within exit classes need to be consistently reminded of wearing your mask, give a little distance between yourself and your friend, that kind of thing.
The executive officer is calling on parents to do what is necessary to safeguard their children.
You as a parent would need to make a determination as to what you are going to do with your child. Are you willing at this point to sacrifice the child that you love? You want to go to work, when they get home with it and you get it, you have to stay home, you would not work. I don't know who has issued this sacrifice of our children. But what we could say to you as a parent, this is a determination that you would have to make.
For GBN News, I am Rena Pett Thomas reporting.
And that was from Grenada. Now, according to the Government Information Service of Grenada, schools will reopen. And of course, they're going to have COVID-19 protocols in place, and there will be a phased reopening. So it will not be the usual reopening where everybody shows up at the same time, but schools will reopen on Monday for Grenada. I want to hear from you, your take on this. What is your opinion on the reopening of schools? Is this something that you support? Is this something that you think should have been delayed? The argument of delaying school, too, is that you delay school for 3, 2, or 4 weeks or a month. You don't know if by then things are going to get worse or better. And so I think that, too, was on the minds of the health and education officials, whether they wanted to proceed with the reopening of schools here in St. Kitts and Nevis. But in Grenada, that was just their opinion on the COVID-19 cases and how they have been affecting how schools operate in that country. But the government has taken the decision to reopen schools. Let's turn to Jamaica to hear what's going on there with respect to the reopening of schools and COVID-19. Let's hear this one.
President of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Brian James, says his association will meet to further discuss the issue, but he doesn't think it is a good idea for students to return to school at this time. Increase in the number of people hospitalized with COVID, increase in the positivity rate and the number of confirmed cases. The Medical Association of Jamaica says there can be no doubt that the country is now experiencing the fourth wave.
I haven't been able to find an official definition of the start of a wave, but if this isn't, then no wave. We haven't had any wave.
Come tomorrow, thousands of students from 856 schools will return to the physical classroom. In a bulletin to the principals of all public and private schools last month, the Education Minister said large primary and high schools must use the blended approach to classes. President of the MAJ, Dr. Brian James, says the association is still discussing matters relating to the reopening of schools.
We remain a bit ambivalent about it. It is clear to me, just personally, that it wouldn't be it wouldn't work very well for us to open schools on Monday. If the positivity remains as is, if the numbers are so high, then COVID is going to disrupt the schools anyway.
He further argues that it is not the best decision to reopen schools with a positivity rate above 30%.
That is not a good idea, I do not believe, personally. But we are having discussions as we speak within MAJ to hear all of the contending views, and we're going to put out a position by tomorrow. Today's Sunday, by tomorrow, we're going to put out a position on it.
In the meantime, the MAJ president says there are some things that must happen now, like a review of the restrictions in place to see if more stringent ones are needed. He also wants hospital systems to be strengthened to ensure that they can adequately respond to any further increase in hospitalization.
And that would involve taking care of the staff. The staff really was one of the big casualties of all of the waves so far. And what we are seeing already over the past week is that there is a massive increase in the number of members of staff who are either quarantined because they are exposed or are actually isolated because they've tested positive, a very large number of those. So what we have to do is have a look again at our isolation policy and see whether or not, in the face of the asymptomatic disease, whether we can make some changes to the number of days that people are isolated for or are in quarantine for in the current circumstances.
And the Jamaica Teachers Association is urging the government to ensure that the resumption of face-to-face classes is guided by the Minister of Health. In his New Year's message today, JTA President Winston Smith said it is important that the science guide the decision-making in light of the expected fourth wave and the spread of the Omicron variant. Mr. Smith also said teachers at all levels of the education sector are expecting the long-promised laptops to carry out their duties in the new year.
And that was some information on as it relates to the reopening of schools in Jamaica and the COVID-19 situation. The phone lines are open. You can call us at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662 0989. Remember, you can also send us a message at 662-2204. 662-2204. Let's hear your opinion on the decision taken by the government to reopen schools at this point in time. My take on this is that I support it. I do support it. I believe that we can't continue to deprive our children of the education that they need. Yes, the argument is there that things can happen online, but we know how difficult that would be, particularly for the primary school students, staying focused and really participating in an interactive class that would be online. I can only imagine would be very difficult. And so schools will go on, and parents are encouraged to send their children to school. Now, at the same time, we know that with the Omicron and with the high number of cases, and each day we're getting, record-breaking numbers, it is only, it's perhaps safe to say that, yes, COVID will disrupt some of the schools, some staff members, some child, some students may get COVID. And so if you have a child and you know your child is not feeling well, I don't think the best option is to send them to school at this time. I mean, they perhaps would miss a day or two. But to stop schools entirely, the Ministry of Education and Health, they have not supported that. Now, this applies to St. Kitts and Nevis. I know there was some misunderstanding from people who were tuned in to Friday's COVID-19 press briefing when the Minister of Education spoke, but this applies to St. Kitts and Nevis. So schools in St. Kitts and Nevis, this applies to all schools in St. Kitts and Nevis. So all schools, all early childhood sector, and all fifth form students in the Federation will go to school on Monday. And if you are from Form 1 to 4, you will go to school on the 24th. If you're in primary school, you will go to school on the 24th. We have our first call for this morning, so we're going to head to the phone lines and we're going to take this call. Caller, good morning. You are on Inside the News.
Hi, good morning. Am I hearing you correct that you said that all schools will be reopened on a Monday and all students are expected to go to school?
No. I said students who are in fifth form.
Oh, okay.
Students who are in fifth form and those in the early childhood sector will return to school on Monday. And if you are in the primary school and you are in forms 1 to 4, you will return on the 24th.
Okay, I just tuned in. I just heard the last part when you were saying that schools are open. So I didn't get that. I didn't get that part. I just want to make sure that that is what I was hearing. Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. Yes. So sorry about that. For those of you who tuned in late, schools will reopen on Monday for fifth form students. Fifth form students and those in the early childhood sector. And if you are in forms 1 to 5 and if you are in the primary school, you will return to school, according to the Education Minister, on the 24th of this month. The phone lines are open. We are taking your calls. Let's hear your take on this decision taken by the government to reopen schools at this point in time. I can only imagine that there will be mixed feedback. Some will support it, some will not support it, and that is fine. That is expected. But it will be very interesting over the next few days. I mean, what I can say is we should really try to protect ourselves. You're going to send your children to school, make sure that they are protecting themselves. But that too is difficult because, like Moment, we know you send your child to school with perhaps a purple mask today and they come back home with a black mask. So the social distancing and adhering to COVID-19 protocols, I can only imagine, would be difficult especially in the primary school setup, in the primary school system. But we are hoping that schools can continue and that the children can get the education that they so need. What is your take on it? Is this something that you support? Is this something that you are not in support of? We're looking across the Caribbean and we're seeing some have taken the decision to move forward with school. Some have said, okay, we're going to wait a while or we're going to do things virtually. If you look right across to Antigua and Barbuda, they started school, according to a teacher I spoke to today, they started school on Monday, that was the 3rd. And so they are in the physical setting, they're in the physical classroom, and things are going smoothly. Let's head back to the phone lines. We have a caller on the line. Let's take this call. Caller, good morning. You are on Inside the News.
Yes, good morning. I support the government position in terms of holding back for some of the younger children, giving some time for incubation period for those who might be exposed to really come out and get treated or at least get over it before they back into school. And even some parents who may be affected, at least their children will not be going to school. So I support that. But I just want to encourage all parents to make sure that their children have the necessary tools, the hand sanitizers, the wipes for the desks, their extra masks, not just one, but 2, maybe 3 masks in their bag, so that if they lose one, or if they one get contaminated for whatever reason, there's always another one. And when you pick up the children in the afternoons, if you have to pick them up, make sure that before they enter your vehicle or before you walk with them, their hands are sanitized. So parents have to do their bit, and the children have to be encouraged to do their bit. I think what the government did was a wise decision to hold out, and it might not be a good thing or an acceptable thing for all parents, because some have to go to work and some have to do different things, but we have to do what we have to do, and the right thing is what we're doing right now to make sure that we keep this coronavirus at bay and not get into our systems any more than it is right now. Thank you.
And thank you, caller, so much for your contribution to this program. It is 11:30. We're not going to hear from what's happening in Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to schools and COVID-19. Stay tuned. We'll play this clip from Trinidad and Tobago.
Standard 5 students and those from Forms 1 to 3 are expected to attend physical classes from February 2022. According to a release from the Ministry of Education, all other primary school students from Standards 1 to 4 will continue to operate remotely come January 2022. But as of April 2022, they will be expected to return to the physical classroom on a rotational basis. ECC students are also supposed to return to school in April. Students from Forms 1 to 3 or equivalent will continue to engage in remote learning to allow the ministry to plan for their return to the physical classroom in February on a rotational basis. Meanwhile, students from Forms 4 to 6 or equivalent will attend school physically for teaching, practicals and school-based assessments from January 3rd. And post-secondary and tertiary students will be allowed to attend classes in persons for teaching and practicals from January 2022. Standard 5 students will sit the secondary entrance assessment, that's the SEA, to be held on March 31st next year. The ministry said delaying the exam, as was done in the previous years, resulted in challenges in administering the CXE and SEA exams concurrently.
And that was an update from Trinidad and Tobago as it relates to what has been happening in schools and with COVID-19. We'll take a break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Voices here inside the news. Inside the news here on WINNFM 98.9. For those of you who tuned in late, we are on the conversation of the reopening of schools. Of course, right here in St. Kitts and Nevis and across the region, some have given mixed feedback on the reopening of schools. As I stated earlier, this is something that I support. I think the children, they have to go back out to school right now. You would realize that On Monday, it will just be the fifth form students and those who are in the early childhood sector. And then you have those who are in primary school. And for forms 1 to 4, they will go on the 24th. But as the caller said previously, parents and guardians, they too have their part to play in ensuring that schools can continue safely. And so you just can't rely on the education or the health officials. You just can't rely on the teachers, because you do realize that some teachers, they themselves are parents. And so parents and guardians, you too have your part to play in ensuring that schools can reopen safely and continue. Yes, we know the COVID-19 cases are coming in record-breaking numbers, but please, parents, I am encouraging you to do your part to see schools reopening safely and ensure that your children can go back out to school. Let's take this break to say thank you to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue taking calls here on Inside the News.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go round.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Today is the 8th day of January 2022. Today is Saturday, and you're listening to Inside the News. The phone lines are open. You can call us at 466-0989, 7620989, and 6620989. You can also send us a WhatsApp via number 662-2204. Let us head right back to the phone lines. We have a caller. Caller, good morning. You are on Inside the News.
Hey, good morning, Devon. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing fine, thanks. And you?
Yeah, you're giving God thanks, man. We have a lot to be grateful for, you know?
Yeah, amen.
Now, according to the plan that they mentioned, I agree with it, but I'll say something else about the preschool section. Now, if you know your child is not feeling well, keep it home. If you know that the COVID is in your house, do not send your sick child to school. Because I learned from somebody working in the system that they say you can't send home the sick children. And when they actually phone for the parents who are on the job, they refuse to come and pick up their sick child. So while the government is going out of the way to ensure that you have a babysitter, because that's what it is, eh? Because that was a big complaint the last time, that people have these small children that cannot live at home. Well, if they're so gracious to open that section of the school system, I think it is up to the parents to be responsible. If the child has a flu, treat the child, take it to the clinic. But please do not carry or send, because some of them send the child by another sibling, a young sibling, and they already gone on the bus to go to work. So that is what I was saying in terms of the free-form students. I expect them to be responsible enough to take care of themselves. In relation to some of the other countries, we see we are not in isolation. Trinidad students have gone to school how long? Do you recall?
I don't recall the specific time, but they've been in school for some time.
Yeah, you understand they're out of school. They're not going back till February?
Yeah, that's what they were saying. So, well, February, they were in school last year, but February and April.
That's what I mean? So since this system is going out of the way to accommodate the free-form students, you know, I expect them to act responsibly. Because if you happen to be sick during exam time, you'll have to write the exam next year. I don't think sometimes just have to think about it. You'll have to write the exam in January, maybe even after you would have done your SBAs. So please be careful. And for parents, we must work out what is our priority. Is it our job or our children? Because you're going to hear a lot of hullabaloo. Oh, they could have sent the primary school children. Nothing spread faster than in a primary school. Because, of course, they got to run up, hug up one another and everything. You know, so please be patient. And family members, you know, that's why it pays to live good with people. I keep saying it, you know. It pays to live good with people and to live in a community. Because you may not think you need your neighbor or your auntie or your sister or your cousin. But when your children have to be at home and you don't know what they're doing, whether they're cooking or they're cleaning or they're going about their business, if you are living good, as we used to do in the old time days, your neighbor look after your child. Child go back in the yard, your mother says stay in the yard.
Well, you know, things are different now, and we really find...
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. We have lost out. Sometimes we say, oh, you know, life improved. Really? We have lost the sense of community.
And I think, too, it has to do with a matter of trust, because some parents wouldn't trust their children to go and stay with a neighbor.
Well, no, because some of them really worthless. I mean, worthless and heartless.
Yeah.
Imagine, and that while you're on it, we really should address it, you know. Because sometimes you leave your children home from school. And the devil sends somebody, male or female, because female doing it now too.
Right.
And we need to teach our children about the don't touch, don't fondle, and if they tell you anything, tell me. Don't be afraid to tell me. They say they're going to kill everybody. Tell me still.
But, you know, that's a very important conversation that topic that you raised there, because we would hear that if you can't carry your child to work, leave them with a friend or someone. But really and truly, some parents do have trust issues, and it is easier said than done for you to leave your child with a friend.
I ain't vexed with them. Some of them you might even have to lock them in the gate. I was lock them in the house, you know.
Right.
No, but serious. And all of you out there molesting the children, because now it is now a plague, and we bring in curse on our country, you know, because Jesus say, I'm going to make Jesus, you know. If anybody do anything to a child, let me say it again. He said, better your mother didn't get you. Better your mother didn't get you. Better they tie a big stone around your neck and throw you in the middle of the sea. So all of you think you're getting away with it. You're not getting away with it, you know. You're under a curse. Because God will fight for them. You all are ruined. You all have ruined so many young people. So many children are being ruined, damaged, emotionally damaged. And we must begin to think, what is our priority, our children or ourselves? All your sexual predators over there, maybe they really want to register and post it like how they post the electoral list. You know, so I am asking, and some of you parents, assist the children. They can't be playing all day. Before you leave sometime, you know, give them some assignments to do, because you have the books or whatever. Some of them you might have to put away the tablet, because on the tablet all they don't mean they're doing any work. Let them read books. I don't know what is wrong with reading. So please take an interest in your children. Look to see who come around them, whether the priest, the pastor, the deacon, whoever. Keep an eye on everybody. That is my philosophy, yeah? Keep an eye on everybody when it comes to your children. So I am praying for our children that they will be protected. And parents, please protect yourself. Put on a mask. Encourage your children sometimes to, if their friends come over, everybody put on a mask. Because we like to blame. Oh, they keep them home. And if you need lunch, because they were talking about lunch, right? The last time that they proposed to give the children lunch, many parents didn't go and collect it. So the government was wasting food. If you know your children are in such a condition, call 311 social services and let them assist you.
Right.
All right, then.
Right. Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution to this program. We're still taking calls here on Inside the News. It is about 15 minutes to the hour. We'll take a break at 12 for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News here on Win FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius, and we are on the topic of COVID-19 and reopening of schools here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The decision has been taken to reopen schools. So again, let me repeat for those of you who may have tuned in late or missed, schools will open on Monday for students of 5th form and those in the early childhood sector. If you are in primary school, or if you are in forms 1, 2, 3, and 4, you will return to school on the 24th. And for CFBC students, you will return to school on the 18th. CFBC, you will return to school on the 18th of January 2022. That decision was taken by the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, the Federal Cabinet, the COVID-19 task force. They met on Friday and they came to that conclusion. If you are looking for more details as it relates to schools and how it will be operating over the next few days and next few weeks, stay tuned to the local media houses for more information. We will try to provide more information as much as possible on the reopening of schools and what will be happening. You can also check out the Facebook pages of the Ministries of Education in St. Kitts and Nevis to get the information from there. Always remember, get your information from a credible source so that you know for a fact that the information that you're receiving is true. And again, this applies to St. Kitts and Nevis. I know there was some misunderstanding about the decision taken, if it only applies to St. Kitts, but it applies to St. Kitts and Nevis. Again, I am encouraging parents and guardians to please do your part in ensuring school can reopen safely and ensuring that schools can remain open. The previous caller raised a very interesting topic too, that would form part of what we're talking about today, and it is a matter of parents having to go to work and having to worry about where they're going to leave their children. I know it is easy for us to say, hey, leave them with a family friend, or leave them with a family, or leave them with somebody. But times have changed and things are changing and people change. And while you think you're leaving your child in trusted hands and you think that your child is comfortable and all is well, somebody might be out there molesting your child. And so to those perpetrators, stop it. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. So hoping for the very best for the opening of schools, and parents, teachers, all stakeholders, everybody who are part of a child's life who would have to go back to school, please do your part. We're seeing where the cases are rising, but what has been said by the health officials, it was Dr. Wilkinson, for that matter, who said that at this point in time, let us shift our focus. So we should not be focusing on the number of positive cases, the overall number of positive cases, but focus on the hospitalization and deaths. And what Dr. Wilkinson has said can be done to prevent hospitalization and death is vaccination. So we already understand that even if you get vaccinated, you can still catch COVID, you can still transmit COVID. So the talk of a vaccinated person catching COVID is still. So stop talking about it now. It's still. Oh, he vaccinated and he catch COVID. Yeah, we know that. Yeah, that ain't news. Because they don't say it. It's been said over and over and over again. So we are well aware of that. But you're seeing where we have less hospitalization and our deaths are at a standstill. We're hoping that it remain that way. We're hoping that it stays where it is. So I know some people will be alarmed at the number of cases. Some people were even freaking out. Where are we getting all these cases from? And then questions were raised about, well, this is the flu season. So questions were raised as to whether it is the flu or if it's the Omicron variant or the Delta variant, because Delta variant may be in the mix as well, But my simple advice, my simple message is please, parents, guardians, teachers, please do your part. Especially parents, do your part. If you know you have a child and your child is not feeling well, take off 2 days. I mean, it's perhaps easier said than done, because if you work in the civil service, it would perhaps be easier for you to take off 2 days. But if you're an hourly worker and you really can't afford to take off 2 days because your boss ain't going to want to pay you, I don't know what to tell you there. I really don't know what to tell you. But if you know somebody who you trust and somebody who you know you can leave your child with, then leave your child with that person for the time being. But please, if your child is sick, if your child is showing flu-like symptoms, please do not send them to school, because you're going to make the situation worse. And then you're going to come back and we're going to lambaste the teachers, and we're going to lambaste the officials, and we're going to say it's their fault. So please, I am begging you, if your child is sick, if your child is showing symptoms of whether it be flu or whatever, you don't know if it's flu or COVID, please, I beg you, send them away. I say it in dialect so we can understand. Do not send them to school. Please. We want schools to reopen safely. We want everything to continue as planned. And that can only happen if we do what we're supposed to do. It was I think the deputy chief education officer who used the chance to encourage parents to have that conversation with their children. Don't just put up a block and say, "Min child not take no vaccine," but have the conversation with them and their physician. Have that conversation. Give them the chance. Give them the opportunity, especially those who are from the ages of 12 to 17. Have that conversation with them. Have that conversation with your 15-year-old. Do you want to be vaccinated? I know somebody is going to come and say, "No, let them take the vaccine." You can't do that. Have the conversation with them and let them, get comfortable first. Let them understand what they're doing. Because it is an important decision that they're making. So sit down and talk with them. Make sure that they are armed with the necessary information as it relates to the virus and vaccine and all that they need to know. But don't just force your child into vaccination, because you ain't want nobody forcing you, because you had people who gave up their jobs because of vaccination. So, sit down, have the conversation with your children, and even separate and apart from the vaccine. I know sometimes you would say, wear your mask, wash your hands, follow the non-pharmaceutical measures, and they don't, but you never know. Using the chance to encourage them and to let them know that, COVID is not something that you want to catch. COVID is not something you want to have humbug you. So please do what you have to do to keep safe from the virus. There's a point in time where we thought that this thing would have been over very soon, and now we're hearing of new variants and new this and new that. So we understand that this thing is going to be here with us for some time, and there is no running from it. It's going to be here with us, for some time, and in everything that we do, it's going to be there. So are we going to keep locking down? Are we going to keep implementing these stringent measures that would restrict people from living? No, we have to find a way to live with the virus. We keep saying it, but what does it really mean? Are we really doing it? Are we really doing it? That's the $1 million question. We'll give a shout out to the sponsors. When we come back, we'll wrap up Inside the News here on WIN FM 98.9.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Enjoy the convenience of getting all your documents in one place. At the TDC Copy and Print Center on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, we do just that. We offer document formatting, graphic design, and copy and print services. Our team of professionals truly understand all your needs, whether it be administrative, professional, academic, or personal. You bring it, we deliver it with quality every time. Visit the TDC Copy and Print Center today in the TDC Mall on 4th Street in Basse-Terre, or call 465-2511. Your copy and print specialists are waiting to serve you.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on WIN FM 98.9. We are going to begin wrapping up the first hour of today's edition of Inside the News. Pleasant morning is wished to all the hard-working teachers here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you for your support, your sacrifice, the love, and the dedication that you continue to exhibit in the field of education, and how you continue to care for these students, these children. Thank you. times it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to deal with a very difficult parent, a very difficult child, in some cases, a very difficult colleague. But through it all, you remain steadfast, you remain focused, you remain committed to ensuring that our children get the care and the quality education that they so desire. So I wish you nothing but the best for the new school year ahead, which begins on Monday, the 10th of January. And of course, those students who are returning later this month, teachers, students, I wish you nothing but the very best. Remember, stay safe. Do what you got to do to keep safe from COVID. Wear your mask, wash your hands. We want to have a successful school year 2021-2022. And this has been the first edition of Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. Thank you guys so much for your interaction, your calls, thank you for your opinion on this matter of reopening of schools here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And quickly before I go, schools will reopen on Monday for 5th form students and those in the early childhood sector. If you are in forms 1 through to 5, and if you are in the primary school, schools will reopen on the 24th. If you are in the Clarence Fitzroy Brand College CFBC, school will reopen on the 18th of this month. And that is the information as it relates to the reopening of schools here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Stay tuned. We'll have the headline news right now. More details coming. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a local reputation and service per second. or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With the WIN Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I'm Devon Cornelius.
Making the headlines, schools reopen for face-to-face classes on Monday for some students. Health authorities signal that the physical reopening of schools may be delayed as Barbados braces for a surge in COVID-19 cases. Internationally, U.S. judge sentences Ahmaud Arbery's killers to life in prison. Now, the details.
The ministry believes the health and safety of all students, teachers, and staff must be given top priority. However, it also holds the view that the continuing education of our students is paramount,
said the Honorable Janelle Powell, Minister with responsibility for education. Such is the balancing act that officials have to engage in as schools are set to reopen next week. After a cabinet meeting on Friday, January 7th, government officials, through consultation with the health authorities, decided that schools will reopen for face-to-face instruction on Monday, January 10th, only for early childhood development facilities and fifth form students.
These students are in the process of preparing to write CXC examinations, and at this critical juncture require face-to-face instruction. Therefore, the main objectives during this 2-week period are to ensure that these students are able to complete their SBAs and remain on target for the completion of the CXC syllabus in time for the exams, which are scheduled for May of 2022.
Fifth form students from the Bastyr High and Washington Archibald High schools will report to school for all-day sessions during the first 2 weeks of the second term and will revert to the shift system from January 24th. According to Minister Powell, secondary school students from 1st to 4th form, AVIC students, and primary school students will commence face-to-face instruction 2 weeks later on January 24th. During the 2 weeks, the students will focus on revision work disseminated by the schools and their teachers to be completed. The school will be in communication with parents about the work required. The minister urged parents to be guided by their children's teachers concerning the revision. WIN contacted a teacher who asked to remain anonymous and shared that regardless of how diligent any teacher may be, the students and parents tend not to be on the same page. From their personal experience, each class will have 2 or 3 parents who will ensure that whatever work is sent is completed, but that is not the majority. The teacher fears that students will still fall behind even with revision work because teachers can introduce no new material. The new measures are in light of the 4th wave of infections in the Federation. The minister reported that additional teaching staff made up of retired and part-time teachers and ancillary staff are being prepared if there is an outbreak in the staff pool within any of these schools. Powell also shared that since the start of the new wave, some students and teachers have been infected with COVID-19. In regional news, health authorities signal that the physical reopening of schools may be delayed as Barbados braces for a surge in COVID-19 cases. Barbados Today has the details.
As authorities brace for a surge in COVID-19 cases due to the highly infectious Omicron variant, there are more signals that the physical reopening of schools could be delayed even more. At a press conference this morning where health authorities sought to address the public's concerns about the new variant, First Vice President of the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, Adana Grandison, said school plants may have to be transformed into isolation facilities once again.
It is an active discussion that we're having at this point in time, and I am very much sure that the Ministry of Health if we should get to that point where we do have a very significantly increased numbers, that the Ministry of Health will definitely come back and make the public aware of this decision. Certainly, there are implications on both ends. Yes, we want to keep the country safe. We want to keep children safe, but we also have to weigh that very delicately. And I think that we would also have to take into consideration the various stakeholders, because children also need to meet their developmental requirements and educational goals. So that is a discussion that's currently being held, and it is something that they're very sensitive and aware about, and I'm sure that the Ministry of Health will come back and make a statement about that at a later date when it is necessary.
Director of Medical Services at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, Dr. Clive Cave, today warned that the prolonged absence from the classroom will have a negative long-term effect on the development of the nation's children. Dr. Cave told the press conference he's hopeful that the Omicron surge will be sharp and short so that children can return to the classrooms.
And will potentially have long-term consequences that we're not fully aware of. So getting back to school is an imperative, as is the physical health of the children. And that's the balance we have to make from time to time. Omicron, for all intents and purposes internationally, seems to be expected to be a shorter but steeper and sharper effect on the community. So maybe on balance, school may not have to open as planned at the exact time because of the numbers of infections in the community. And not just because of the effect on children. We know that children bring home the infections to the elderly and more vulnerable. But it is not anticipated that as a long-term strategy, keeping children out of school is the best thing to do. So it's a delicate balance. I think we've all been aware over the last 2 years that the best laid plans are subject to change quite immediately. The wave we're riding now is going to be sharp and hopefully short, so that if we all work together and do the things that we know we should do, protecting ourselves with public health measures and immunological protection through vaccination, I think we can get back to having our children in school in the shortest possible time, which is our main objective.
We now bring you these international reports.
This was the verdict Ahmaud Arbery's family had hoped for.
That is life plus 20.
Travis McMichael and his father Gregory given the maximum sentence for murdering 25-year-old Arbery after chasing him through a Georgia neighborhood in February of 2020. William Roddy Brown, who joined in the chase, was given a mandatory murder sentence of life imprisonment, but with the possibility of parole after 30 years. The judge said that he, unlike his co-defendants, had displayed some remorse. All three can appeal their sentences, but also face a federal hate crimes trial next month. Before the sentencing, members of Arbery's family made their case.
The man who killed my son has sat in this courtroom every single day next to his father. I'll never get that chance to sit next to my son ever again.
And Arbery's mother addressed her son directly.
I made a promise to you. Today, I laid you to rest. I told you I love you. And someday, somehow, I would get you justice.
The presiding judge said he'd thought deeply about the case. He even paused in silence for a minute to suggest how long Arbery had been running in fear of his life before he was murdered.
A fraction of the time that Ahmaud Arbery was running in Satilla Shores.
And in rendering his verdict, the judge alluded to the racial fault lines of this community in the Deep South.
I argue that maybe a neighbor is more than the people who just own property around your house. I also believe that in assuming the worst in others, we show our worst character.
Outside the court, Arbery's mother thanked those who supported her family and made reference to one of the most shocking moments of the trial, when one of the prosecutors alleged her son was not a victim, but a criminal, quote, with no socks to cover his dirty toenails.
The long toenails that she brought up in her closing arguments
she failed to mention that Ahmaud was lying there in the middle of the road with a big hole in his chest.
Outside the court, there was celebration and accountability for the murder of a black man by white men in the South.
Too many of them still haven't gotten anybody arrested for killing their child. So this is about all of us saying, no more, no more.
But it should be remembered that in the aftermath of Arbery's killing, the police and local authorities did nothing, accepting the word of those now convicted of murder that Arbery had been up to no good. Only when video evidence was released weeks later did state authorities act. Shia Britansi, Al Jazeera.
A lull in fighting has made way for potential dialogue. The Ethiopian government is pardoning a number of high-profile political prisoners, including members of the rebel Tigray People's Liberation Front. The government has been fighting the TPLF for more than a year amid ethnic and tribal tension. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government says the pardon's purpose is to pave the way for a lasting solution to Ethiopia's problems in a peaceful, nonviolent way, especially with the aim of making the all-inclusive national dialogue a success. It was not immediately clear how many of those granted amnesty have been freed. The war in the north has claimed the lives of thousands of people and left hundreds of thousands more facing famine conditions in Tigray, which is under what the United Nations says is a de facto blockade. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres welcomes the news of the pardon on Twitter, saying, "I will remain actively engaged in assisting Ethiopia to bring an end to the fighting and to restore peace and stability." The pardons coincide with Orthodox Christmas, a day widely celebrated by Christians in Ethiopia. It also overlaps with a visit by U.S. envoy Jeffrey Feltman, who is pushing for talks. The conflict has threatened to tear apart Africa's second most populous state and destabilize the Horn of Africa region. But can the Nobel Peace Prize winning Prime Minister negotiate a solution in his country divided by war? Leah Harding, Al Jazeera.
Accepting his second Academy Award, this one for lifetime achievement, Sidney Poitier paid tribute to those who had preceded him.
I accept this award in memory of all the African American actors and actresses who went before me in the difficult years.
But it was Poitier himself who cleared the path for many black stars in Hollywood. Born in Miami to immigrants from the Bahamas, Poitier trained on the New York stage before breaking through on the big screen. His signature roles founded on the themes of America's racial conflicts. In the late 50s, he played a Southern prison convict chained to a white inmate as they made a desperate escape.
You married to me, all right, Joker. And here's the ring, but I ain't going south on no honeymoon now.
In the early 60s, another of Poitier's characters touched on interracial marriage, which was still illegal in several American states.
Mom, this is John.
Meanwhile, Poitier was helping to wage the real-life fight to win first-class citizenship for black people.
I became interested in the civil rights struggle out of a necessity to survive.
In The Heat of the Night, Poitier played a northern detective undaunted by Southern bigotry.
Virgil, that's a funny name for a nigger boy that comes from Philadelphia. What do they call you up there?
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
That film won 5 Academy Awards, including for Best Picture.
I build a chapel.
I build a chapel.
By then, Poitier had already won his own Oscar, the first awarded to a male African-American actor. The prize was for Lilies of the Field, in which the issue of race was left largely unspoken. In that film, he played a warm-hearted mechanic who builds a chapel for a group of singing nuns. But in one of his late screen roles, this time portraying Nelson Mandela, Poitier returned to the struggle for racial justice.
Every day, the cells of your jails grow more and more crowded with angry and defiant young men.
Poitier drew criticism from some black activists who called him too passive in the off-screen struggle for civil rights. But his standing has endured. Sidney Poitier, a proud Hollywood pioneer.
You were listening to the WINNFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were: schools reopen for face-to-face classes on Monday for some students. Health authorities signal that the physical reopening of schools may be delayed as Barbados braces for a surge in COVID-19 cases. Internationally, U.S. judge sentences Ahmaud Arbery's killers to life in prison. Thank you for listening.
That was the WINNFM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Dealing well with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Dealey Walwyn, people you can trust.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
Found the South 98.9. WINNMedia. People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Buying your medication is easy with City Drug Store's curbside pickup. WhatsApp our certified pharmacist at 662-8769 with your requests. For prescriptions, take a clear photograph and send for review. We will engage you in dialogue and then provide a quotation and link for payment. You can then pay via TDC's online payment portal. And once the transaction is complete, you'll be notified that your pickup is ready. Yes, it's that easy. Send your WhatsApp message to 662-8769 to order your medications today with City Drug Store's curbside pickup service.
People make the world go
The time in our studios is 12:26 p.m. You're listening to WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today's edition of Inside the News, Devon Cornelius. Today is Saturday, January 8th, 2022. The first edition of Inside the News for 2022 for the new year. Welcome back to Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today's edition of Inside the News, Devon Cornelius. Thank you guys so much for joining me for the first hour. It was very interactive. For those of you who are just tuning in, we spoke on the reopening of schools in St. Kitts and Nevis and the concerns as it relates to COVID-19 and the rise in the active cases. The decision has been taken by the Ministry of Education with advice from Health, from the Federal Cabinet, the task force to reopen schools in more so of a phased approach. And of course, we're seeing similar decisions being taken across the region. Grenada and other countries alike will open their schools. Some have already and some are still in the process of. And we want to continue this today's edition of Inside the News, but on a different note. So just providing an update and some more talk and commentary on the elections that are due in Barbados on the 19th of this month. Yes, Barbadians will go to vote for a new government on the 19th of January 2022. Elections were called by the Prime Minister, Mia Mottley, who is the leader of the Barbados Labour Party, and she is seeking re-election in the upcoming polls. Now, there has been some hot debate over the past few days as it relates to whether Mia will be able to secure the majority of votes in order to form the government in Barbados. Some have said that she will lose ground. Some have said that the number of seats will decrease. Others are saying that may not happen, but we will be following very closely, and we will be monitoring these elections and see what the outcome of this election will be. I can tell you that the world is looking at Barbados right now. I mean, they have been in the spotlight for the past few weeks, for the past month, a few months rather, since that decision was made to remove Queen Elizabeth II as their head of state. And so all eyes have been on Barbados for a very long time. We also have the Prime Minister, or the government rather, making Rihanna, popular singer Rihanna, who is from Barbados, a national hero. And so all eyes have been on Barbados for some time. And on the 19th day of this month, they will go to the polls to elect a new government. And of course, the political climate is heating up in Barbados. Bajans are readying themselves to cast their vote for their preferred candidate. So we are looking at the different parties, and we have the Alliance Party for Progress, the APP, and the leader, who is Bishop Joseph Atherley, has suspended his proposal to file legal action over either the timing of the January 19th general election or the lack of provisions for COVID-19 positive eligible voters to cast their ballots. Now, you would recall that some few days ago, the announcement was made by I think it was the Electoral Boundaries Commission, or the task force, or something along that lines. But the announcement was made that people who test positive for COVID-19 or positive patients for COVID-19 will not be able to cast your vote on election day. So if you are a Barbadian in Barbados and you have COVID, you can't get up and leave your home if you're in isolation or quarantine to go and vote. That is essentially what they are saying. However, I read that if people show up to vote and they show signs and symptoms of COVID-19, provisions will be made for them. Now, if you ask me, that is basically telling people to leave their homes and go vote. But yes, if you show up to vote and you exhibit signs and symptoms of COVID-19, provisions will be made for you. But as it is right now, people who test positive for COVID, if you have been ordered into state quarantine, or if you have been ordered into quarantine or isolation, you can vote. That is what that is the decision that has been taken for this election. Now, just speaking with a friend of mine and talking to different people and following social media and looking at this, this will be rather interesting because it, I think, would be a disadvantage if you're looking from the political standpoint of it. Well, it's politics, but looking from the number of people that will be able to vote, I think it would be a disadvantage to both parties or all parties that are contesting the polls on election day, because you don't know if it is a case of majority of these people being supporters of a particular party, whether it be the APP or some other independent candidate or some candidate for the Barbados Labour Party or the Democratic Labour Party, the DLP. And so I think it's going to be very interesting. You may just find a situation where half of the people who test positive for COVID perhaps reside in a particular constituency, and that they reside in the constituency that is perhaps in favor of this party. And because they can't vote, that candidate may lose grounds. And so this decision is not just or not just has the health aspect of it to say that, well, we're trying to protect those people who have not tested positive for COVID-19. This has so much more to it. So much more to it, of course, with the politics. You're saying, well, if you test positive for COVID, you can't show up to vote. But looking at it, I think the mind of a politician right now is saying, boy, what if majority of my supporters test positive? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I would say people are panicking because of decision, because of this decision, because they're saying, well, I mean, if I test positive, I can't go to vote. So Bishop Atherley, who on Wednesday called on other opposition parties to join him in taking the Mia Mottley administration to court, said on Friday that with little time left before polling day and having not heard from other parties, he needed to focus on helping his candidates in the field. So he was willing to carry the government, the Mia Mottley administration, to court over the date of the election and not necessarily having provisions in place for people who test positive for COVID-19 to cast their ballot. But because he has not received support, or the support that he thought he would have received from the opposition parties, he has decided to leave that and he gonna fend for himself. Got to make sure that his candidates are in good standing for the election, because the other opposition parties are doing just that. Now, while maintaining that the decision to call an election in the middle of a pandemic and failure to facilitate voting by persons in isolation and quarantine still merited a legal challenge, the former leader of the opposition said he would put the planned suit on hold because he has reached out to other parties and they perhaps have said, boy, we can't focus on that right now. We're trying to win our seats, and so we're not going to spend all of our time, money, and resources to fund some court filing action or whatever the case is to carry the government to court, and then we lose. So we lose the case, we lose the election, and we lose everything that we have. It says, I'm still reinforced in my view that this action can be challenged. I ask the other parties publicly to give an indication that they will be willing to join us in challenging it. With the little time we have left, all that is to do is to secure this campaign in my support for my candidates, he said. He said, I would like to join with others to challenge if they are of that disposition. But it does not seem that they are, because I haven't heard any information from any of them, he told Barbados Today. However, Bishop Atherley said he would be willing to revisit the proposal if the others were to come on board before Election Day. Leader of Solutions Barbados, Grenville Phillips II, said during an interview with Barbados Today on Thursday that once the facts related to the planned court action and the basis on which it is being made are firmly established, his party had no difficulty joining the suit. But he insisted that the parties which intend to join the action must first meet and agree on the grounds and then take the case to President Dame Sandra Mason for her direction. Bishop Atherley's call for court action was in response to Chairman of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission EBC, Leslie Haynes QC, saying that people who were diagnosed with COVID-19 could not vote. The APP leader said if legal action was not taken to either force authorities to make provisions for COVID-19 patients to vote or delay the polls, thousands of eligible voters would be robbed of their franchise. Government authorities have explained that the current COVID-19 protocols and directives make it illegal for patients to break home isolation or the quarantine, so they would not be allowed to leave to vote. My question is, who's going to stop them? Who's going to be monitoring all of these people, these positive patients, and telling they can't go vote? Because if you so in love with your Labour Party, your Barbados Labour Party, and you realize, I got to make sure my candidate win, and I get to go vote, who can stop me? So I think that's perhaps, I hope, and I assume that maybe that is something that they're looking at, that we're going to have to find a way to actually monitor these cases. But really and truly, are they going to monitor these cases to ensure that people who are supposed to be in home quarantine and in isolation stay at home and don't go out to vote? Are we going to see a situation where some politicians are going to be encouraging their supporters to leave and break quarantine to go and cast their vote? It's going to be very interesting in Barbados. The phone lines are open and we want to hear from you, your take on this. Do you think provisions should be made for people in Barbados who have COVID to vote? I want to hear from you. Call us at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. It is 15 minutes to the hour of 1. We want to acknowledge the sponsors for this program. So before we take some calls, let us give a shout out to the sponsors. And when we come back, we'll continue inside the news here on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today's edition, Devon Cornelius. Stay tuned. I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world
Welcome back to Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. It is 12:43 here in our studios, and we are taking your calls. Call us at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. Do you think people who test positive for COVID-19 in Barbados should be allowed to vote? Let's head to the phone lines. Hey, caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. You can call us back at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. If you want to participate, you can send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. Yes, do you think that people who test positive for COVID-19 should be allowed to vote? Do you think that provisions should be put in place to facilitate them, to allow them to vote, their constitutional right? A very interesting debate right now going on in Barbados. Opposition parties are frustrated. Everybody is frustrated. I mean, I've been looking at some of the reports coming out of that country, and people have said that they are frustrated. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Good afternoon to you. Yes, I'm calling concerning something you were talking a bit earlier concerning the COVID and St. Kitts and schools and that sort of stuff. What I'm calling to say is that, and greetings in Jesus' name, what I'm calling to say is that where government is concerned in getting involved in the issues of health, education, and that sort of stuff, that goes against the Bible for government to get involved into such. Based on the Bible, that is for the private sector to deal with education, health, and many other things that governments are doing today. And we ignore and we reject the Bible to our own catastrophic destruction, ruin, and so on, later or sooner. The only how we can deal with all of our problems is deal with them the way the Bible said we ought to deal with them. And going down the road, the way of government getting involved in these things that the Bible has not given the government permission or allowance to get involved into. It may seem in the beginning, to be a solution, but in the end, Jesus Christ is going to turn it out to be a failure and to be a curse and to be a destruction and ruin upon us more than anything else.
Right. So what is your opinion on the reopening of schools? Do you support that decision to reopen, to have that phase reopening beginning on the 10th?
Well, in context, what I've just said, in the first place, government should not be involved in education, be it our health, be it a lot of other things, be it to end schools.
Right. So we have established that. Now that we understand that is the case, and that is not going to change. Now, what I want to get from you now is your opinion on it now. Do you support the reopening of schools beginning on Monday?
Okay. Number one, I did not support the closing of schools in the first place. And the quicker they open, is the less worse things would be. The less worse things will be, the quicker they open. The longer we keep them closed, is the worse things will be. But either case, like I said, is not really the answer. But if you want degrees of which is worse than the other, keeping them closed is worse than opening them as quickly as possible. That would be my answer based upon that question. But like I said, I never agreed in the first place with the closure, because the whole thing just go against what the Bible instructions say to us all, including to government.
Right. Well,
that number one, that should be in education and health and so on in the very first place.
Right. Well, thank you so much, caller, for your contribution to.
Hello. And I want to commend the government for something. I want to commend the government for taking a baby step in the right biblical direction in not introducing any more lockdowns, because lockdowns are very, very terrible and horrible when done by government, no matter the reason, because such goes against the Bible.
Okay, you kind of confused me there for a moment, because you first said that government should not be in charge of health, but you're now commending
education and so on.
Right, but you're now commending the government for making a decision related to health.
Well. This decision, this decision is a decision aware from government control over these things. Is a baby step.
So what exactly are you saying? Are you saying that the government should not be in charge of health, or are you saying that you think, or are you saying that you think the government is doing a bad job at running health, so they should step away from it? What exactly are you saying?
Well, because they're in control and controlling health, which goes against the Bible and education. So it is a very bad job for government to be involved in these things. And so every step they make to go closer in the Bible way, in moving away from government control of these things, including not having lockdowns and that sort of stuff, which are baby steps in the direction of government relinquishing to some degree control over these things. Because when you open up, you now let the private sector to operate more freely. And that is a baby step in the right biblical direction.
Right. Okay.
But when you close on now, you're actually increasing the government controls over these things, which is actually going more in an anti-biblical way. So that is not good when we go in an anti-biblical way. So I'm not saying, but first of all, government should not be even involved biblically in the locking down of any place. But it's the system we live in. We live in this anti-biblical system, a system we live in, and every step that the government make, be it a baby step or a giant step or whatever, in the direction of relinquishing control over these things that the Bible said that ought not to be in control with, I will give my commendation for going in that correct step. Not that I am justifying the system itself, because they could close on anytime they choose to, which is a wrong system.
Right, and caller, thank you for your contribution to this program. We're still taking calls here on Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. Today is Saturday, January 8th, 2022. It's just about 8 minutes to the hour of 1, and we're still taking your calls. Call us at 4660989. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Mr. Cornelius?
Hi, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. You know, I am listening to your program, right? And I am kind of lost. You know, yes, I agree. Every caller is entitled to his or her opinion. But I am kind of lost. That is the most I'm going to say. I ain't going to make no other comment. I'm kind of lost after hearing, your last caller.
But that's a vague thing to say. You're lost with what the caller said?
Yeah, I don't understand. Up to now, I don't understand, Anyway, as I said, I don't want to make no comments on it. That is all I'm going to say. I'm trying to understand where this call is coming from. That is why I said I am lost. Right, mine. He's entitled to his opinion. You understand? So, anyway, have a wonderful afternoon, sir.
You too, and thank you so much for your call to this program. We are still taking calls here on 1FM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. With the caller before, he was commenting on the decision taken by the government to reopen schools, and he was giving his biblical perspective of it. I admit that I don't understand fully his take on it, because my thing is you're commending the government on something that you say they should not have been involved in the first place. Kind of confused there. So let's head back to the phone lines. Okay, we seem to have lost that caller. Caller, you can call us back 466-0989. We're still taking calls here on WINNFM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. Perhaps you can call back, caller, and explain yourself some more, but it was a bit confusing because you're saying that the government should not be responsible for health, and yeah. But I don't want to head back to the topic of health and schools and all of that. I want to hear from you, callers, your take on the decision in Barbados right now with not allowing COVID-19 positive patients to cast their ballot. So, in other words, if you have COVID, you live in Barbados, you're registered to vote, you can't vote because you have COVID. What is your opinion on that? Call us today and let me hear from you. It is a very interesting decision. I would say one that is bold and perhaps something that we never anticipated. I mean, yes, we're in COVID and it would be crazy to just allow any and everybody to just show up and do as they like. Because if that is the case, then of course, the virus will continue to spread. But some have argued that perhaps measures or something should have been put in place. Something should have been put in place to allow them to vote. Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, Mr. Cornelius. The last point you made, I agree that something should be put in place, for them to vote. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's like setting up like a polling station at the different quarantine.
Right, that's the same.
Okay, you understand?
Morning, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is how I would, look at it that way. They set up some kind of polling station. Sometimes there might be 5 different quarantine stations, 5 different hotels or wherever they are quarantined, and they, to give them. But you don't expect them to go in the line with other people because you're going to create problem there. But set up some kind of polling station at the various quarantine location. That is how I would look at it. Thank you.
And thank you, caller, so much for your contribution. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. That was my exact comment to a colleague today. Don't just say, you can't vote because you have COVID, but give them the opportunity. So I don't know. I mean, perhaps we're saying it as if it's easy. I don't know. But putting in place something to allow them to cast their vote would be beneficial. Let's head back to the phone lines. We have a caller on the line. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, it's me again. Well, let me just clarify something.
Yeah, and keep it really short, please, and straight to the point, because we don't want to go back down that road.
Yes, my commendation. Let me see if I could reword what I said. If you might come across clear, my commendation was not, like I said, not to. My praise was not to justify the system, which is unbiblical, but my praise was for the government for not taking us further down the road of disobedience to the word of God. Because the further you go down the road in disobedience to the word of God, is the more destruction and ruin by Jesus Christ you will bring on us. So since they did not go further down the road of disobedience to the Bible, in contrariness to the Bible, that I gave some praise for. But concerning the voting system, even the very voting system, including that in Barbados, here and world is speaking about, even that as well is contrary to the word of God, because this is not how the word of God said we ought to choose our leaders. For example, if you go in Exodus 18, verse 21, you will see there, for example, how we ought to go about choosing our leaders, and it is contrary to how we are doing it right now.
Can you explain for me?
And God cannot bless.
Right. Can you explain for me? Because I don't know what Exodus 18 is. Can you explain for me?
For example, Exodus 18:21 tells you that the people of God are to come together to put up men of God to rule the country and to judge and to be judges and rulers and so on over the country. There are to be men of God who are filled with the word of God, who hate such thing as bribery, and who are men who are strong in the word of God, filled with the word of God. And it is not about voting one in over against the other, but it's putting up these people to fulfill the post of what is there is vacant. And if more than one person is there for a post, then in order to choose the one, or the part of the Bible say you cast lots. And who the lots fall on, for example, in Acts chapter 1, for example, and other places, Proverbs, etc. That's how you make the decision as to who will get a post if more than one person is up for it.
And what character would you say these people should have?
Well, the godly character, which includes, but not limited to, such thing as hating bread, as Exodus 21 says, such thing as leading the people in the way of God, having a godly Christian character, being a model, a Christian model to the country, because the first duty of government is not to make our life easier. That is a secondary duty of government. The first duty of government is to bring glory to God and to win people for his kingdom.
So with that being said,
everything we do.
So with that being said, would you consider going up for election?
That's what I said. The election system is against the word of God, and therefore God cannot bless it.
Right.
And if God would make me or whoever a leader, it would have to be in the biblical way.
Right. So are you willing to consider going up for election in the biblical way?
Once things are done biblically, and if I am chosen, thank God for it.
But you can lead the way. You can lead the way in terms of making sure that things are done biblically. But thank you so much for your contribution. We want to take some more calls here on WINNFM 98.9 for another edition of Inside the News. It is just 1 minute past the hour of 1, and we are still taking your calls here. We have just about 29 minutes left before we close off today's edition of Inside the News. Call us and let me hear your opinion on what you think is happening there in Barbados. Do you think people with COVID-19 should be allowed to vote? And what measures do you recommend be put in place to allow them to cast their vote? The opposition parties in Barbados are upset and they are outraged because if the number of positive cases continue to rise in Barbados, then obviously that would mean that the number of people who can't vote would rise as well. So very interesting development in Barbados, and of course we will be monitoring this. I do not have with me the voter turnout in Barbados for I think it was the 2018 election when Mia Mottley was elected as the first female prime minister. But I don't know the voter turnout for then. So let's assume it was low. With this, it may be lower. So that would be a very interesting development. We want to take this short break to acknowledge our sponsors here on today's edition of Inside the News. When we take this break, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9 Win FM.
For real and unbiased sports news and reviews, from cricket to football and everything in between, with in-depth interviews from your favorite sports icons. Check out The Bench Meeting, hosted by Kenneth Bob, on Sundays from 4 to 5 p.m. Only on WINNMedia SKN.
Welcome to 2022, guys. Here are your Horsford's Value Mart IGA Value Club New Year's specials from December 30th to January 12th.
That's right. Feliz Año Nuevo! Joanne, tell us these specials, man.
Well, Celeste pizzas are just $5.99 each. High-C box drinks, 8-pack, $8.99. Essential everyday aseptic broths, $7.49. Campbell soup, $6.99. Essential everyday freezer bags, $8.99. Nestle Splash flavored water, 6-pack, $5.99. And now our very low weekly
value deals. Essential everyday canned vegetables, just $2.99. Final Touch fabric softener, $9.99. IGA or essential everyday pasta sauces, $7.99. Equaline mouthwash, $9.49. Ensure, $6.99. IGA essential everyday salad dressing, $6.99. Shop smart, shop value mart. Joan, in español.
Como siempre, sea listo y haga sus compras aquí a
Value Mart.
Welcome back to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. Sorry for that interruption with the music. So we're still taking calls here on WinFM 98.9, and we're continuing inside the news. The phone lines are open. Call us at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. We're on the conversation of elections in Barbados. Elections in Barbados, where people who are positive for COVID-19 are not eligible to cast your vote on election day. What is your take on that? Let's hear from you. Remember, you can call us at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. Send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. As I said, this will be very interesting, and we will be monitoring what's going on. As it is right now, people in Barbados, particularly those of the opposition parties, are outraged. They are upset, and this is not something that they are in support of. Let's hear from you. I'm wondering, have we seen something like this in any other country where people positive for COVID? Well, we had elections here in 2020. I don't know what was put in place for people who were in quarantine, but I think if you were in quarantine, you just couldn't vote at all. Let's acknowledge the sponsors when we come back. Okay, we have a call, so let's take this call before we give a shout to the sponsors. Let's take this call. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon, man. How are you doing, man?
Good afternoon. I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, I was trying to follow that caller there a little bit, but the one that's called back and try to clarify. But I picked up on a piece of one point that he made there about, like, I think he said something about the people that's in the high places, judges and stuff like that. They must be righteous people. You know, like, I totally agree with him because, but through all of his explanation, I just feel like maybe he's trying to imply like the place is just corrupted. You know what I'm saying? Like persons wanting change. They're looking for this, integrity in public life, and they're looking for that transparency. But that type of stuff, man, is not happening at all. Like if the individual players who are just primarily the politicians, if they don't have that within them, that type of stuff is never going to come to the fore, bro. They're never going to implement no type of changes in the parliament to move in that direction. Public integrity in public life and transparency and all that type of stuff. Me, I'm about to be 53 years old, bro. And since I was a little boy in the Federation, I've been hearing about these type of change. People have been, articulating for these changes. And up to this day, bro, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be 53. Those changes hasn't come yet. So me, I don't see those changes coming at all. I don't see those changes coming at all, bro. It's going to take some different players to really go after those type of changes and implement them in Parliament. As far as down in Barbados goes, Barbados just went into republic status. I mean, how could they go into republic status now and so shortly after they go into an election and the opposition there has voted no confidence in the leader? I mean, does anybody want to call in and comment about that or whatever? Because if they just gone into republic state, they should be going into a republic state in a strong position. But if they're gonna call election, it doesn't seem like that's like cemented, And I hope persons are seeing where they're taking this stuff. Come in this year when all these elections are coming up. Nevis got local election this year. Another couple of years before the federal election. These leaders, these politicians, they're going to follow this blueprint. They're going to try to deny people their right to vote. And to me, bro, in St. Kitts and Nevis, the place is super corrupted. Judges and stuff that's there running the judicial system, they're corrupted. The lawyers on the ground, they're very corrupted. And, we should have people in those places who are local people, not imported from different islands. It should be people that's of our peers to be judges and jury in cases that happen here. The judicial system there is corrupted. I'm talking from first-hand experience right now, bro. And, there's no changes coming, man. The schools, I believe the government made a good choice in, phasing out the entry back to school. I agree with that move, and I hope that going forward, we can get the COVID back under control. So Happy New Year to you, man, and, best of luck going forward.
Right, thank you. And Happy New Year to you, too, and your family, and all the best for the new
thanks,
year
man.
ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. We're still taking calls here on Win FM at 98.9. It is 11 minutes past the hour of 1, and we are winding down. So if you guys were following a bit earlier, we saw where the leader of the APP, Bishop Joseph Atherley, he wants to carry the government to court over, not allowing people to cast their vote. But he has not received the support from the other opposition parties. And I guess in order for you to go through or do something like this, you have to get all the support you can get. But because he has not received much support from the opposition parties, he has decided to put it on the back burner, and he will be focusing on his candidates in the field. But I'm having a hard time. Trying to understand or digest that nothing would be put in place to allow people who are positive with COVID to vote. Because I would say that for the most part, the people who are in quarantine or in isolation, they did not just get up on a Monday morning and went to look for COVID and say, hey, COVID, I'm over here. Come here now. Perhaps most of them are in quarantine or isolation as ordered by the state. So I don't know. Perhaps it is easier said from the outside looking in. But putting something in place to allow them, whether it be you set up polling stations at the quarantine sites, I don't know. But that would be interesting. And I think that the only how something will change is if there is pressure from the opposition. Let's take this short break to acknowledge the sponsors. When we come back, we'll continue the internet inside the news here on WINNFM 98.9. Stay tuned.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
TDC Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
People make the world go
Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Cornelius,
Good afternoon.
and Happy New Year to you and to the listening audience.
Same to you.
Who was on internet. I was driving when I heard the discussion about the Barbados issue, the situation as opposed to the election. But I would like to get some facts and stats as to, I know, I've heard of it. I am not privy to all of the information. Is the House already been resolved where it is a countdown to the date of election? What date is it? Also, you piggyback on what was our situation back then with St. Kitts when we voted in the other day, the last election. Well, for the aspect.
Okay. So the election date in Barbados is set for the 19th. And yes, the House has been dissolved. So right now there is no parliament in Barbados. It's just the government, no parliament.
One would say that it doesn't matter because depriving one individual of a vote is it's tantamount to depriving 100, in my looking at it. If you would deprive of one individual of a right that individual is entitled to, you will deprive many. And so it does not matter of the figures because the figures it's gonna fluctuate from now till the election day. So wherever it stands as to how many persons are in quarantine on a day, you would have deprived them. So that is something for the legal minds to really deal with. And I think I'm not a person of that sort, that caliber. But in my own little common sense of view, I think that can be a case that could be a landmark case, a precedent case, because you would deprive persons. Whether mechanism should be put in place to allow all to vote, yes. But recall, St. Kitts, recall when our citizens that was on the outside that normally would have come and vote, it seems as if our borders was closed because maybe the emergency and all of that. So I don't know. Barbados does not have an emergency, so that is somewhat out of the door, out of the window when it comes to, okay, under the state of emergency, certain rights and privilege would be taken away from the individual, the citizens, and so government would have gotten away, have some legitimacy to argue on. Not so with the case with Barbados, and that is very, very interesting. It is very interesting. And we in the Caribbean, let's say if it works in Barbados, someone will take Maria Page from Barbados' book and implement it, or try to implement it too, depending on whether this COVID situation still lingers on. And so it's very interesting, very interesting. I like to hear the legal minds on it. You know, we are hearing it mostly from layman's term, but I like to hear the legal minds on it. Something to really watch and see what will unfold as we go along. Thanks for listening.
And thank you, caller, so much for your contribution to this program. It is 20 minutes past the hour of 1. We have just 10 minutes left before we wrap up today's edition of Inside the News. What is your take on people in Barbados not being allowed to vote if they have COVID? Let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. A couple of days ago, there was a news item which said the opposition was asking the government to choose either having those quasi-polling stations for the persons who are in isolation or having mail-in voting. And I think that the mail-in voting system would have been perfect. To introduce that now, I don't know if there's enough time, but remember there is a suggestion that was made to do something formal, legalize it so that they can have a legal standing. But I would think that instead of disenfranchising the people or the whole system, they should really consider the mail-in voting system, wherein in this regard, persons won't be interacting. Those persons in isolation won't be interacting with anybody at all. You know, if they have a polling station, they will be interacting, and persons can be contaminated the same way. So having that mail-in voting system would have been the best option in my regard.
I think that's a good option too. I'm just thinking really of finding a way to allow them to cast their ballot, because to just tell people that you can't vote because you have COVID is wrong. Yes, we understand that you don't want the positive patients to just be out roaming and walking around with other people who may not be positive. But finding a way to let them vote, I think, should be considered. Today's the 8th.
So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, today is the 8th, so let's see what decision will be taken by, I think it's the Electoral Boundary Commission in consultation with the task force. So let's see what decision will be taken there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, caller, for your contribution to this program. We're still taking calls here on Inside the News on WINNFM 98.9. We're winding down. We'll end this program at 1:30. Do you think people who have COVID in Barbados should be allowed to vote? Call us today and give us your opinion on That is at 4660989, 7620989, and 6620989. We are winding down, but you can send us a WhatsApp message at 6622204. That is 6622204. We are taking your calls. It will be some interesting days are leading up to polling day in Barbados, and there's a caller raising the point of just coming out of the that transition to becoming a republic, and now they're going to the polls. Maybe some people have said that they're not in support of something like that, but let's see. But as I've said, really, I just want something to be put in place to allow the people to vote. Allow them to cast their ballot. Please put something in place to allow them to do so. But to say that, well, you have COVID, you can't vote, man, no, I'm not so sure if I'm not so sure, not that, but I'm not in support of it. I'm not in support of it. Finding a way to allow the people to cast their ballot is important. The caller said perhaps the mailing system, people, literally like today, you're mailing your vote. I'm thinking you set up a polling station at a different quarantine site. There's so many things that can be done. What is interesting though, and something that was on my mind, and somebody sent me a WhatsApp message along that lines. What happens? What happens, right? If one of the political candidates, let's just say of the ruling party, the Barbados Labour Party, what happens if they test positive for COVID-19? That would be very interesting. And the $1 million question is, would they be allowed to vote? That's the $1 million question, boy. That's the $1 million question. If one of them tests positive, would they be allowed to cast their ballots? We have a caller on the line, so let's head back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Mr. Cornelius, the point you just made there. What goes for one should go for all. You understand?
That's what we think, but it's a strange world.
I see the point. I see the point you're trying to make, because those persons in quarantine, right? It might be a ordinary voter, but you're trying to say if one of the heavyweights get corona, if they would be allowed to vote,
Because I can only imagine. I mean, if you're the prime minister and you put such a rule in place, and this has been supported by the court, this is now in place, I think they're going to want to kick up a storm and say, let me vote because I'm the prime minister. But what goes for one should go for all.
Exactly. But you know what would have been interesting too? I suppose it is only talk about voters, right? But I think sometime last week was nomination day. Suppose now, before nomination day, a couple of the candidates had come down with corona. I wonder if they would be allowed to register. But I suppose, I don't know the full thing, if it is only to do with voting. You understand?
Right.
But if a couple of the candidates come down, would they be allowed to go and nominate? I think nomination day was the 3rd of January. That is very interesting. But the bottom line, I don't think those persons should be, they should be denied, to vote in, the upcoming election, I think they should supposed to go and exercise, their rights, their franchise, what I mean. But we are just petitions over here, looking on.
Right.
They put the policy, whatever policy in place. We're gonna see how it work out between now and the. Is the 19th is the election, right?
The 19th, yes.
Yeah, the 19th. So you're talking about 11 more days.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the way I started, I'm gonna end. What goes for one should goes for all. Thank you.
Right, caller, thank you so much for your contribution to this program. We have just about 45 more seconds left. Thank you guys so much for your participation in today's edition of Inside the News. Thank you. I wish you nothing but the very best for 2022. I keep saying 2020. Maybe that's an indication that 2022 will be for you and all that you desire will come true. But thank you guys, yes, for your participation. And I hope to hear from you next week. Remember to stay safe, wear your mask. If you're driving, put on your seatbelt and don't take it off until you pack up your car. Come on, do your part in keeping St. Kitts and Nevis safe from COVID-19. Let me just give you guys a quick update on the COVID-19 numbers before I go. I just received the update. So this is the St. Kitts and Nevis COVID-19 situation report number 645 as at Friday, 7 January 2022, 11 p.m. Confirmed cases in the last 24 hours, 152. Active cases, 1,024. Number of cases for St. Kitts, 3,437. Number of cases for Nevis, 619. Recovered cases, 3,004. Total number of cases confirmed, 4,056. Deaths, 28. Negative results, 57,978. So, cases in the last 24 hours, 152. 152. Active cases is now at 1,024. Guys, stay safe until next time. I've been your host for today's edition of Inside the News, Devon Cornelius. Have a good Saturday and, stay blessed.